What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of V2 Sports on the Field. We usually have a long episode because of the amount of games we have to cover, but today we brought on a few extra members to speak, and we will be covering the SEC Championship game. It's a rematch from 2019. Georgia's looking to get it back in blood, but LSU is looking to ruin Georgia's playoff hopes. So, let's see where this episode takes us.
Whoa, here she comes. Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up. Whoa, here she comes. She's a man-eater. Whoa, here she comes. Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up. Whoa, here she comes. She's a man-eater.
I love
Shout
the
out to
delay.
all the people who listen to Hall & Oates in their time for like any people over 30 listening
and
to
shout
this.
out you young Georgia fans. We understand that was the first time you experienced true bliss. The last time since 2021 that your team won a national title. Congrats. I wasn't born, and neither was any of this chat. So, let's go ahead and get into it. It's the SEC Championship game. We've got LSU fresh off an upset from Texas A&M and Georgia after struggling in the first half against Georgia Tech. What do y'all think could be the key points for each team to win? So let's start it off with LSU. What does LSU have to do to win this game?
So, first off, the primary thing that LSU has always relied on is Jaden Daniels running the ball. Every single game, you will see him scramble out the pocket and make plays with his legs. And if they want any chance of winning this game, they're going to need to utilize his mobility. They're going to need to look at the run specifically with him and the fact that he could beat some of Georgia's top-tier linebackers and some of their pass rush, which will be a challenge considering this is probably the best defense they have ever played in their season and coming off of a loss against the Jimbo Fisher. So you'll need to have that going for you.
I'm not sure Jaden Daniels can outrun Georgia's linebackers if his ankle is not good.
That's the problem.
He was in a boot on Sunday.
Yeah, he is injured.
That's the thing. It takes away a lot of their offense.
I don't know how good he'll be, but if he can't run, that's going to put a lot of strain on his arm.
Now, hold on. Here's the thing that everybody seems to forget, okay? LSU, they have that guy on defense. And as far as I'm concerned, Georgia can lock up LSU. They have really Perk. They have Perk Daddy. Perk Daddy's going to come back there and he's like maybe going to get one sack.
For last weekend.
Right,
you know, I also think they have that. Not many people.
Hey, they were playing so their coach doesn't get fired. Damn it! All right.
And not people get enough credit to the fact that they still have a pretty talented wide receiver core.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Ringo is the guy. He's been locking up people since the beginning of the season.
I don't know. He played pretty.
But when you got Keyshawn Butte,
he's been bipolar.
You got Jenkins.
Exactly.
I mean, they can maybe throw the ball a little bit. I mean, matter of fact, now that I think about it, they're probably going to be throwing the most they ever have, considering their Georgia's run defense is incredible, and that Daniels will be less mobile than he usually is. So that's a main point here. If you could throw the ball well, maybe get some points on the board. But
that's easier. That's easier
again,
said than done.
Well, yeah, you're playing one of the best secondaries in college football.
And this is an LSU team that just came off a loss. You know that they're going to come back. I mean, this is a lot bigger than just a regular season game. It's a SEC championship with a possibility to make the playoffs and also knock out.
Hold on. Y'all do realize that the playoff rankings come tomorrow.
Georgia is a lock.
Hold on now.
Yeah.
The playoff rankings come out tomorrow. Georgia might be a lock, but if they drop LSU after losing to an unranked team by more than 20, but they didn't do it to Tennessee, if they drop them out of the top 8, put them maybe at like right in front of Tennessee or right behind them. If they beat Georgia, I'm going to be extremely honest with you. The committee has been on some BS this year. They're probably going to let a 2-win Bama slide in if LSU beats Georgia.
Okay, maybe. I thought for a second you were going to say they'd let a 3-loss LSU team in, and I was about to lose.
If they let a 3-loss LSU team in, I swear I'm going to become the biggest advocate for an 8-team playoff that there will be. I will go to the NCAA's headquarters.
Definitely in over Bama.
I mean, to me, it's either TCU or USC. If I were picking, even though TCU is still undefeated, I would put USC because I think that's the one offense remaining that I truly believe can
All right.
put up some serious points
So
against
before we move
Georgia.
on to the next point,
Let's simplify it. Let's simplify
Okay.
it real quick. If TCU and USC win, they're in.
Yeah,
hold on now. So if
or at least
those
one
two,
of them.
And I
If
think
those
Georgia
two
and
teams
Michigan
lose-
are already locked.
If those two teams lose, who do y'all think gets the final two?
If
So
Because
Ohio
TCU's
State
playing
would,
at
because they
K-State.
only have one
Ohio
loss.
TCU's
State.
playing at
Ohio
K-State
State would
that's
get
going to
moved.
upset them.
Ohio State's in,
So it'd be
And if
one Ohio State
TCU
isn't coming back.
if TCU loses by a lot, then Bama will slide in over them. If it's close, TCU still might be there. But honestly, Kansas State deserves a shot, low key, because
What?
they're
What?
playing the best of anybody right now.
What?
They only got 2 losses too.
No,
So
no,
if they
No.
blow
No.
up TCU,
No.
No.
How?
At that
I
point, let's
mean,
put
yes.
Tulane in the championship.
Okay, here
I
we
love-
go.
the playoff.
All right, listen.
I love the
lo-
Kansas State love. Sorry,
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Kansas
you go
State,
ahead.
Kansas State have
My thing
a
about
better
Kansas
record than
State,
Bama.
they have a better record. Cool, that's great. All right, but if you're going to put in K-State over
They're
anybody
not
because they've been
K-State's
playing good.
not getting it.
But hold on, you said if both of those teams lose, you would throw for K-State. All right,
No, I wouldn't. But I
Then
would
what'd you
watch
say?
out for them.
watch out. K-State will not make that top four, no matter what.
No, if both of them lose and
Ohio
TCU
State
loses
bumps
by
in.
a lot,
Bec-
Ohio State's in if one of them loses.
Because I really see TCU, they went through the same predicament as Ohio State to a point. Okay, TCU's largest amount of competition is going to be that conference game. They played a lot of great teams.
And if-
But TCU's going to do what they normally do. They're going to get to a big game, piss down their pants, and just ruin it. All right, K-State's
For me,
going to
Yeah, and if TCU and UCS both lose, I'm seeing Bama and Ohio State are going to find a way in because the committee is so biased towards these powerhouse teams that they love them so
Here's
much
my
that they're going to
favorite
find a
thing.
way in.
If
Like,
TCU
TCU
loses,
would have to lose by a
TC
lot to drop behind
TCU
Bama.
has
to be
played
honest.
nobody all year. All right, they really haven't to a point, and they've almost got beat countless amounts of times.
Yeah.
Ohio State plays
Here-
their first real competition in the big game versus Michigan, and they get mollywopped. I think that's technically the same thing. So Ohio State will bump in if TCU loses, and if USC loses, it really depends on how the committee's feeling. They may hop like if by some weird ass way LSU beats Georgia, like the tiny little chance that there is, the committee will do exactly what they want to, and they'll either throw Ohio State's of course going to get back in. They'll either throw Bama back in. It's going to be an SEC team either way. It's going to be Bama, Tennessee, or LSU. And the committee's going to say, "Well, look, they just beat the number one team in the nation."
LSU won't have a zero. They will have no chance because of that third loss. LSU's
I
out
don't know.
because of that
If-
third
if
loss.
LSU
no,
is
they
still
would
in the
never put a
top 10,
three-loss team in the
LSU
top
is
four.
out.
They would
LSU
never
is
put a
done.
three-loss team in the top four. Like,
if they
here's
still
what I
beat the
think.
number one
committee.
team.
The committee's
Like,
dumb.
as a,
Doesn't matter.
as a
LSU's
fan
done.
of this sport, like, here's what they should do should this specific event happen. If TCU loses and USC wins, make it obviously Georgia, Michigan, but then Ohio State at the 3 and USC at the 4. Because ultimately, the committee is somewhat biased in the fact that they want to pick games that they think will be extremely entertaining. I don't think putting Alabama in there will do any favors, considering that will be a bad game in my opinion. But think about it this way: you have one of the best offenses in the country versus one of the best defense in the country for 1-4 between Georgia and USC, and you get a rematch of one of the biggest rivalries in the history of college football. How awesome would that be to see in the playoff? I mean, we're talking Rose Bowl, Georgia, Oklahoma type game, and then we're talking two of the most
Georgia would not
hated.
give up 50 to USC.
Georgia will give up. I would say they'd give up nearly 40. I mean, that
No.
USC offense
No.
and Caleb Williams is
No.
unbelievable. What are you talking about?
That's what they said
It's
about
also
Tennessee, too.
Pac-12.
I mean, Georgia. I think that they absolutely.
Georgia in the past couple of weeks, as much as they're the number one team in the nation, they put up 16 on
They look
Kentucky.
beatable.
And for 3/4 of the game versus Georgia Tech, if Georgia Tech would have taken advantages of the situations that they had, Georgia Tech would have beat the ever-living dog shit out of Georgia.
No,
Yeah,
they-
Georgia is a beatable team
Georgia
now,
is a
and if you
beatable
put them
team, and
against
they proved it the
USC,
last 3
I think
weeks.
that's a game.
I've been
That would
saying
be-
that
I mean,
since
they have
If
never
Missouri.
Georgia plays if Georgia plays the best they can, there's not a team that can beat them.
Well, tell
Yeah,
me to do that
you
because
can
they haven't
say
been
that
doing
for
it
a
for the
lot
last
of
3
shows up like
weeks.
they did against Missouri, Kent State. If
You
they
could-
if their defense
Tech,
shows up like
Kentucky.
they did against Missouri,
Okay.
Kent State, Georgia Tech,
First
any
off,
of those
Okay, but
games,
Georgia has
look
not
at-
played
There-
their
it's
best the
over.
last 3
the way
weeks.
their
And
defense
second,
showed up. They gave up 7 until the last trick play touchdown to Georgia Tech. Georgia, you're talking
and they
about
only
what
put
if
up
they play
10.
like this? They say y'all are saying what if they play like this? How they played against Missouri, Kent State, all these.
Kentucky, which was
Yes,
2 weeks
because
ago.
what have
Listen-
they shown us
listen-
recently to
listen-
say that they're
listen
good?
listen to those teams. Listen to those teams that you're naming, and listen to the teams that they play good against. Oregon, South Carolina.
First off, that's week 1, and even then, we don't care because
Tennessee.
ultimately,
yeah.
that is just superstition. For all the
Okay,
people
hold
who
on,
say,
hold on.
"Oh,
Everybody,
Georgia
this-
just plays
this
bad
is my,
against
this
the
is
bad
my
teams,"
favorite
no,
thing. This
that's
is my
just
favorite
false.
thing. Have y'all
That's just
noticed
not
that
true
these teams
anymore.
he's naming that Georgia absolutely mollywop the hell out of? They have great offenses, but the statistically worse defenses. Like South
Yeah, and they
Carolina,
didn't
their
score.
defense is bottom. You've got Oregon, their
They didn't
defense
score.
is like median. Tennessee, their defense is bottom.
Georgia,
But the teams
if
that y'all
Georgia
struggled
played
against have
USC,
good defenses. The teams that y'all
if
literally
Georgia played
struggle
USC,
against.
that would be a good game because USC's defense is not good. We know that, but their offense, that would be the best offense they'd play all year. 1,000%.
Factual.
That would be the best offense they've played all year. And that would be the true test to what that defense is capable of. Because, fun fact, like with Kentucky and with Kent State, and like with all those games, I can't really think of all of them at once. When you can't score, or Georgia Tech, when you can't score but more than like 10 points in a few quarters, you're going to get shit stomped. You're going to get destroyed. And I think USC is going to be one of those teams that will capitalize on their offensive mistakes. I mean, even Mississippi State, they did bad against them in the first half. I mean, they cannot keep getting away with poor offensive showings. I get it, Stetson Bennett, your double tight end set. They've been good, but until I see them play a just lights out offense that will truly score on them and still win, I would not say that it is unlikely.
Didn't everybody say that? Didn't everybody say Tennessee was going to do that?
Well, first off, we now realize from the South Carolina
can be
game that
wrong.
Tennessee was just given a little bit too much hype, and also they were not ready for the moment.
Exactly.
USC
USC
is. And yes, one, that will be a neutral site, so Georgia will
In
not have that
Atlanta?
advantage.
in the Benz.
Repeat
Really?
that?
In the Benz in Atlanta.
What are you talking
USC
about?
fans travel like the number 1 versus number 4 seed
Yeah.
plays in Atlanta. Okay, USC fans travel really, really well.
Not
Okay.
as good as
Yeah.
Georgia. Man.
Okay, we get
Dude,
it. It's
you
in
were
Georgia
acting like,
State.
Fans, you're like
dude, shut
30
up.
minutes
That's
from it,
just
though.
insane to say that. First
Look,
off, you
Georgia-
say
Georgia
like,
will
oh,
have-
okay,
Georgia
you know what?
will
I'll
have
give you a
at
perfect
least
example.
70%
Week 1,
in
LSU
the
played
people.
Florida State, and everybody said that would basically be LSU's stadium because it was in their backyard in New Orleans. And what happened? I was at the game, and it was 50-50 right down the middle. And you know why? Ticket allotment. They're not going to just sell out the game to Georgia. Why do you think all the Super Bowls? Why do you think back-to-back Super Bowls this year from both in LA and in Tampa have had 50-50 fan bases? Because
There's
they
ticket
don't allow
allotments in
the
SEC
entire team to
championship
hold
game.
up.
And Georgia goes 60-40 on Alabama in the SEC championship game. What do you think they're going to do to USC?
They're not going to do that because
Okay,
USC
you cannot-
travels well. They're not going to do that. And even then, to
you
say that
wanna-
that was 60-40 is insane.
You want to list that like Georgia beat all these good teams? Can we not like look at that USC has also beat UCLA, Notre Dame,
Yeah.
and they're playing Utah again after they lost to Utah by 1 at Utah. It wasn't home; it was away, and they're playing them again in the championship.
I love how
And
we
they've
haven't
had
even
Oregon
talked about
State.
the SEC championship game.
We're talking about Georgia. They're
We're
struggling
pushing,
defense.
We're pushing way through their struggling
They're
defense
not
right
struggling defense. What are you talking
now. 16 points on Kentucky's head is a struggling
we didn't
defense.
all
try-
these teams,
we didn't-
all these
we didn't
teams
try to
that
score.
Georgia played,
Who didn't try?
like that they did bad against, they didn't end up scoring. Like they didn't end up getting
Yeah.
enough
And
points
you
on
can't
the
score
board
you
for it
can't
to
score on
matter.
Georgia's defense.
You can't.
That's what I said.
Did you just say you can't score on Georgia's defense?
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about? That's
Missouri
I'm-
did it.
Who-
Kentucky did
Yeah.
it. Kent State did it.
Crackhead alert.
And
That was
They
the
scored
dumbest
22
statement I've
on
ever
you
heard.
guys.
Georgia had 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
Missouri
And you're now
scored
gonna be
22
playing
on
one
you
of-
guys, and their coaching just fell apart,
And
and
here's the
that's
thing.
why they lost.
Yeah, but
Here's what you're
Georgia
gonna
had three-
what's gonna happen.
Georgia had 3 turnovers.
If in Georgia's perspective, let's say you did end up playing USC. I'm
I can't wait
speaking
to come
like
back
if I was
this
talking to
episode
Georgia
in a
here.
month.
If Georgia played USC, not only are they going to be playing the most top tier offense that they have played, and also anybody can play, but they will be also playing a team that's going to hit on that deep ball. Because fun fact, if Hooker simply made a couple good passes to Hyatt, that score is way different in Tennessee versus Georgia. It's just the fact that he could not hit a deep ball to save his life. And Ringo, I'm going to be honest, got somewhat cooked on some of those routes. It's just that Hooker was not hitting them because of the crowd noise. And what happens when you're at a neutral site? The crowd noise isn't nearly as bad as being in a packed out, insane stadium as it is in Georgia.
Let's also
I'm
not
telling
forget,
you.
All right, with the neutral site thing, back to the SEC championship game. All right, cool. If Georgia sells it out, that's great. If Georgia gets like 60-40 or 70-30, that's cool. It really is. But LSU literally went to Arkansas, which is one of the top 3 most, hostile crowds, because Arkansas fans, for some reason, are just crazy and not like, cheering for the team crazy. They're just batshit.
Whoopig.
Whoopig, yeah.
Sorry.
LSU blocks out the noise. They've done it multiple times this year, and honestly, I don't think any amount of noise will cause LSU any issue. Their biggest problem is going to be Jaden Daniels and the offense being limited because they can't run.
I do admit that LSU is they're gonna lose this game. Matter of fact, I'll just go out and say my pick. LSU will lose to Georgia. I'm very, very confident in that. But most people would think that third loss against Texas is a handicap because now they're like, oh, they're in a bad state of mind. They're out of the playoff potential. That's it. No. If anything, that makes it much harder for Georgia because, one, they no longer have to be worried about making the playoff because that's no longer going to happen. And 2, they're pissed. They just lost their chance at getting into the playoff, and they're mad about it.
LSU
they
literally
want to
has
say
nothing to lose.
Yeah. And you know what? We said this last week when we talked about the Texas A&M LSU game. I think it was who was it that said that a team with nothing to lose is the best team you could play? It was
Me.
I mean, they have a championship.
it was Dane. Yeah, exactly.
They have
So
a
Dane
championship.
brought up a really good point that I think perfectly summarizes this game. And that a team with nothing to lose can really mess you up.
That's cool and everything. It's a championship game. But here's the thing. Nobody's goal in college football, if you are, top 10 at this point, is to win your conference game. Everybody's looking forward to the playoffs.
It's always a goal.
It's a goal, but it's not the main idea. It's not the
Winning
main
the
thought in
SEC
your
is
mind.
always a goal.
As a team, you're
I
looking
guarantee
forward.
you, Georgia is not worried
It's
about it.
It's the main point in Georgia and LSU's mind this week.
It's not.
What is?
Georgia already knows that they have this locked up.
What Georgia
does
is
not
looking
care-
into
Georgia
this
doesn't
game
care about the
is-
playoffs one bit right now.
Georgia's looking into this game that
Exactly.
they're gonna have
Georgia's
an
looking
easy
into the
win.
game
Georgia's
because
looking-
they have a lock.
Championship.
LSU has nothing to lose but an SEC championship game that they were already presumed to lose.
Yeah.
So they're going to go out there. They're going to play extremely aggressive, run and gun. Everything that they can do to exploit that Georgia defense. And guess what? The 60-40 fans aren't
can't.
going to do shit.
Nobody has.
And not only that, but there's another
I never
thing that
said
Georgia
that.
needs to worry about, and it's injuries. Like with LSU, if they get people injured, oh boo-hoo, you're gonna go to the Citrus Bowl with like a wide receiver out. That sucks. Georgia, however, if you get injured, like just a couple guys even, that really changes the trajectory for how you're gonna perform in the playoff.
Don't.
Why would they not be? You're worrying about your players
It's a
getting injured.
championship game.
If your players get injured in this game, that completely screws you over. Like,
That
I'm not
screws your
saying that
odds
this is
just a
going to
little bit
happen.
more.
What are they going to do about it? What are they going to do about it? Not
Play
play.
conservative.
Yes.
Don't
What?
go all
This is-
out. on
the
your
only
players.
thing they need to do is not get blown out.
Championship.
They just don't need to get blown out. That's all they need to do. Well, let
That's
me ask this:
literally
what is the benefit from Georgia winning this other than bragging rights?
And a trophy.
Winning an SEC title and stay undefeated, putting a number on
So
the
bragging
board
rights.
and
So
Well,
bragging
yeah,
rights.
yeah,
You just
going
defined
down the
bragging
history
rights.
as a
Other
team
than
that
that,
won the
they
hardest conference.
Yes, you were all saying things that fall under the category of bragging
Bragging
rights.
rights.
Other than that, they have nothing to gain from it. It's not like this is going to give them a better seeding. It's not like this is going to boost
Yes, it
morale.
is. What?
No, it's not.
A one
They're
seed
already
versus
number
like a
one.
three? Okay, if they lose, they're not going to be number one.
Okay.
Well, first off,
and?
I said that
Does
they
that
would
mean
win.
anything?
But second off,
But what will they
based
gain
on
from
how
winning?
you're
It's
saying-
not like they're going to get a better seed from winning at all. They'll
Gain
just
an
stay at
SEC
1.
championship.
Okay,
They
cool.
don't
We
care about the
passed that
playoffs.
point. We passed that point. We're now
They
talking.
don't care.
What
They don't
do they
care.
have to
You
gain?
really don't think they care about the playoffs?
No, not right now. They don't.
Why?
that's
Why?
insane. That's
What do you
insane.
mean?
Wait, everyone quiet. Why? Why was Georgia not worried about the playoffs?
Can I listen to Kirby talk about how they're not worried about the playoffs for 20 minutes today?
Yeah, but
okay.
why?
Why? Yeah.
Because they're worried about winning because they're worried about making an accomplishment and winning a really tough conference and winning an SEC championship
All right.
for the first time since
First off,
2017.
I'm just going to say
And
this.
get-
They've
and
already
get-
locked
and
up
get
the
the win
conference.
on LSU.
They
They've
already
locked up the
won
conference.
the conference.
You
No,
can give
you
them
don't
the
win
ship.
a conference until you win the SEC championship game.
No.
So you're
okay,
saying that LSU is giving Georgia a run for their money and could possibly win this game?
No.
So Georgia's worried about LSU.
So then why?
right?
then
why are they
worried
then?
Obviously, they could win the game, but I don't think that is how
So
it plays
Georgia
out.
is focusing entirely on this game, and this is what
Yeah.
matters right now. Yet there's a good chance they're going to lose.
What?
That's about
Where-
what you said, and that's confusing.
When did I ever
because,
say there's a good chance they're going to win?
Or you said that they could lose. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they could.
So if they do
You could
lose and
lose
LSU
it.
is at 9, the committee's not going to look too happy at that. The committee's going to pull Georgia.
Georgia's in. 100%.
So Ohio
I
State,
got
that
from
lost by
all these
2
happy.
possessions to a team that was 1 rank lower than them,
They
was thrown
lost by
all the way to the
22.
5. Yes, that's more than 1 possession.
They lost
I'm
by
sorry,
22.
it's simple math. All right, and they got thrown all the way to 5. What do you think they're gonna do with a number 1 team if they get beat by at least 7 by a team that's not even in the top 5?
Georgia's in. I don't know what you're going on about.
What,
'Cause
what
they're
what's
in-
the committee gonna do?
in.
Because they're in? Nothing's locked up
They're
yet.
in.
Conference championship week isn't over. It starts Saturday. So if
Yeah,
LSU
well,
beats
okay,
Georgia
you
by
wanna go
10
down that road?
points,
Kirby
they're
Kirby's
gone.
never talked about that too. Don't leave it up to the committee's hands, and boom, you know, telling the players not to leave it up to the committee's hands. Boom, there you go. They're playing for the playoffs.
Okay, so real quick, I will say
If
this.
you're saying that they
Georgia
can
is the
play
one
for
team
playoffs,
that, right now, who I could basically say that unless they lost this game by like 40, they are staying in the playoffs. That's a lock.
Yeah.
I'm
Because this is
honestly
the
saying
one
if they
team
lose
that
by
everybody has
15,
said
it's
is.
over.
I don't think so.
If you're going to see how the
No.
committee's
they're not gonna
you
lose by
saw what the
15.
committee did to a team that lost by 22, and they
Yeah,
were just
but
1
they
rank
were
lower.
right. They ride
Yeah,
Georgia
And because
so
it was a
hard.
blowout and the offense couldn't score, it showed that
What do you
Ohio
mean you saw what
State's.
the committee did? The rankings come out Tuesday night.
Exactly, and if AP has them at 5, there's no way in hell that CFP is going to keep it. CFP makes their own rankings for top 4. They copy and paste 5 and beyond.
Essentially, yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, yeah, Ohio State is going to be 5, but like,
So then losing by
doesn't-
22 to a team that's 1 rank lower than you.
at
All
home.
right. So yeah, okay. So you go into a conference
not even
championship
playing in
game.
your
If you
conference
lose to
championship
if you lose to a team with 3 losses, not even in the top 5, what do you think that's going to tell the committee? You gave
I think
up?
it's going to say they were playing
They're gonna go to a
conservative.
6.
They might move them to 3 or something, maybe even 4, but ultimately they're going to stay in the playoffs because what
Georgia
showed
is
them is
100%
we're playing conservative. We don't want to lose any
Why
players.
are you the
This
only
game
one
doesn't
that
necessarily
think
matter.
Georgia's 100%?
What?
because
not
it's
you.
any given Saturday.
My bad.
You have to look at it as that.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, I agree, but Georgia's in.
Okay.
They are.
Or just what?
Georgia's in.
So let's
Oh,
say,
yeah.
let's say,
So the
Georgia-
team that the
let's
CFP
say-
and the AP have been literally riding all year, Ohio State, lost by 22, which is a considerable
They-
amount.
But
To
the
a
thing
team-
is, they haven't been riding them. They'd never once even considered putting them at 1 above Georgia.
AP
Georgia
put
is
them
the
in.
team that they're riding.
AP put them in.
AP did.
Yes, and
Not
that's what I'm-
CFP.
Yeah.
I just said the AP and CFP. Watch. This is exactly what's going to. If LSU wins by more than 10 points, and this is a small percentage chance, if LSU wins by more than 10
Sure.
points, I will literally put like $10 on it. They'll drop Georgia to 5.
No, they won't.
I agree.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, you probably
Well,
lose $10.
Georgia would
It's
have
gonna
to
be a
lose
4 or
by more than
5.
25, which just isn't going to happen.
You would have to get absolutely blown out in order for that to happen. For
What do
me,
you-
that's
Georgia's-
20
Georgia's
plus.
not getting blown out by LSU.
They won't. No, I agree with
It-
that.
I
But I'm
mean-
saying that in order for them to drop to 5 or below, they would have to just get absolutely stomped from start to finish. Like, this would
Yeah,
have to
which
look
isn't
like
gonna- which
relatively
isn't gonna
Oklahoma versus LSU in 2019. Like, this would have to be just a royal beatdown for that to happen. Like, if they just lose a close game or even by 10, multiple scores, I would say they move to 4. Maybe even 3, but I'll play it safe and say 4. They would have to get just mollywopped in order to be moved out of the playoff.
Here's the funniest part about this. Okay, you're saying they'd have to get mollywopped. That's great.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but I want you to also
Sure.
look, and I don't want anybody to interrupt me so I can get my point across. I want you to look at the committee. Okay, the committee,
Yeah.
the actual voting committee. Nobody from the SEC's in that. It's mainly northern states, so all those conferences. So what do you think's going to happen when they see, another Big Ten team? I believe that's the conference that Ohio State's in. They lose to a rank 1 below them, okay, by 20 points, and they get thrown out. What do you think they're going to do if the number 1 team in the nation, who's been so good all year, gets beat by like number 6? They're not going to look too hardly at that because that's a 5 ranking differential. They're not going to be pleased with that.
I
And
could
then
be
you also
thinking
have
of
to look at
play-
the strength of
yeah.
wins that LSU has.
I'm done with this
Like-
argument.
I could be thinking of the playoff differently than you guys are, but ultimately, I think the playoff committee chooses the teams for the top 4 based on what they think would be the best possible game that you could get. Which is why I say USC and Georgia, fantastic if Georgia wins, which most likely they will. But like I said, let's consider the fact that they lose by, like, say, 10 points. If that happens, I still think they'd throw Georgia in at the 4 slot because they know this team has gone undefeated and have been insane and they've rode them for so long now that why would you just throw them out when people would argue that defense doesn't deserve to be shunned? A lot of people would want to see them still in the playoff and do well because viewership and entertainment
why would you
are
throw
some things
Ohio
that the
State
committee
out?
prioritizes.
Why would
They
you
throw Ohio State out because it was a beatdown. You basically have to, otherwise people are going to get mad. They knew that, like, everybody knew that if it was a close game, both would stay in. And if it was a beatdown, then one of them would leave for whoever lost. Obviously, it was the latter. And I think that with Georgia's case, they have had such a substantial lead as number 1 that, again, you would have to just get destroyed in order for them to get out of the top 4, considering that how long they've held that.
All right.
Again, I could be just giving them too much
time
credit.
here. I understand. Let's go ahead and get into our predictions and get to the sign-off.
Sure.
All right, so Dane, you want to start?
LSU, obviously, after coming off a loss, they're not going to get this one done, I think. It'll be a high-scoring game, probably 32-28, Georgia.
Did you say 2?
He said 32.
Oh, okay. Mine cut out. Sorry.
Well, it's your turn to talk anyway. Go ahead.
All right. I'd love LSU to win this game, but I don't see it happening. I have Georgia win this one, but I'm going to say in a close one. I'm going to go 34-28.
Hunter?
I don't think LSU is going to move the ball that great. I mean, Jane Daniels had that ankle injury that we all saw in the A&M game, and so it's going to play a big part in their offense. So I feel like Georgia's going to beat them pretty favorably with a 42-24 score.
31-13.
All right, Luke?
Ew.
With all of this being said, I still feel like Georgia ultimately is going to take this, and by not the most substantial margin, but by something that's at least solid, because they have been struggling recently against teams that are definitely not near the talent level that they are. I also feel like LSU really wants to take away something from Georgia, considering that's the only thing they have left at this point besides a visit to the Cheez-Its Bowl. So I think it's going to be a 10-point game that Georgia does win, and it's just going to show again that their defense can handle a lot of really solid offenses, but this one specifically because Jane Daniels an injury, as well as the fact that LSU, as of recently, other than the A&M, or well, I mean including the A&M game, haven't been doing great. So 10-point game. I'm gonna go Georgia 31-21. Georgia, go with that.
Rush, did
I'd
you
be
give your
shocked
prediction?
if LSU got 31-13. I'd be shocked if LSU got the 20.
Jared?
Yeah, it makes a difference that Daniels is hurt, but let's not get it twisted. LSU wasn't going to explode on offense, even if he was fully healthy. But I definitely think it'll hurt them, but wouldn't have made a difference in the outcome of the football game.
Jared, you want to give your take? No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to say, sorry, my bad. I joined in late. LSU is one of those teams that I just wonder how they got there. I don't personally know how they got there. You know, we saw the wins that they had, but I feel like they don't necessarily deserve to be where they are. And, you know, at the end of the day, they're the team that's in there, and, you know, we have to watch it. But I think Georgia is the better team. They're built for it. I think that they're on. Even if they got blown out, they'd still be in the college football playoff. But I don't think that they're going to have to worry about that because I think they're going to win with ease. I think they'll win by at least 2 touchdowns. I would say 31-17.
All right. I understand this episode. I've been coming to LSU's defense. I've been jumping at Georgia. I've been asking what's going to happen if you get injured, what's going to happen if you get blown out. And as much as I, have been riding them, talking about them, this is a big game for both teams. All right. Georgia has what it takes. Georgia knows how to play lockdown D when they want to. They know how to get the offense flowing. So with that being said, I'm taking the Georgia Bulldogs to suck that Tiger dick. LSU by 14. So, with that being
LSU
said,
by 14?
LSU by
Taking
14.
LSU to win?
Taking LSU to
Wow.
win by 14.
I'm all here for it.
Final score?
Wow.
Final score?
Yeah, you know what? This
Yeah, final score.
34-20.
if
Wow.
this was
Did you
Like,
not see the
you know
display
what?
that
No,
had
no.
against
if this was a
Texas
few weeks
A&M?
ago, I'd be. Oh wait, you got it.
Go ahead.
All right.
Everybody question my sanity.
Actually,
I'm all
no,
here for it.
no. I'm changing mine. I'm joining you.
Wow.
I want to be different. I'm going on the LSU train.
Okay. All I'm gonna
They're
say
beating
is
Georgia.
I'm still keeping my pick. I still think Georgia's winning. But here's the thing. I respect the pick. Because if this was 3 weeks ago, I'd be pulling a Jackson right now and saying, what kind of Mr. Clean product drugs are you on? Are you kidding me? This is insane. Blasphemy. Yet now, considering we thought your Alabama pick was going to be bad, LSU beat them. We thought some people thought that the South Carolina pick was bad. South Carolina won. Some people thought that the Mississippi State Ole Miss game pick was not great. Won that too. So considering you've been able to kind of pick the upsets and narrow that down, I wouldn't be entirely surprised to see you right once again. However,
This
I
is
still
not
think
one of
Georgia's
those
winning.
games.
Yeah,
This is
I
not
still
one
think.
of those games.
Like I said, I'm all
I'm-
for hearing y'all
I'm a
question
Jared on that
my-
one.
I'm all for hearing y'all question my sanity. I use it as motivation. Thank y'all so much. I couldn't do this without y'all. It's just another stepping stone. It's another hater. My mother always told me that I was built for something different.
You
I
sound like
completely-
someone.
Love to hate
I'm
on
aware. I was built for
Love to hate
something
on
different, so keep hating. Keep plotting on my downfall. All of y'all are just irrelevant. But nah, for real.
Love to hate on
LSU,
Georgia. Oh, yeah.
That's some Rayanne energy.
No, like, never mind. That would be a redacted statement. So thank y'all for joining us. Once again, I'm not going to shout out any of our sponsorships because they're not paying. So guess what? They don't get a little bit of promotional time on the payoff until on the podcast until they pay. And I understand that might be a little stingy. I don't care. You're not getting free publicity off of me. So thank y'all for joining us at this episode of On the Field. We really appreciate it. Make sure if you do want to buy tickets, buy it from Ticketmaster or anywhere but SeatGeek. And if you would like to keep up with your favorite college athletics or your favorite college's athletic alumni, just use ESPN or Google because Pro U Sports ain't it either. So thank y'all so much. We really appreciate y'all for tuning in. And as always, good morning, good afternoon, and good night from the V2 crew. Go Tigers.